Live from downtown New York, it's Footy Prime. Live.
Woo!
Wow. It's our reaction show. Hello, everyone. I'm here. I'm Shams, and Craig Forrest is here, and Amy Walsh, and Jimmy Brennan. JC's here. JC, are you going to be perusing the YouTube feed, and if we get any kind of comments and stuff?
Why, as a matter of fact, I am. James, thanks for asking.
Good. Well, thank you. That's wonderful. We're here to react to Kevin Blue's first media appearance since getting the General Secretary and CEO of Canada Soccer job. Literally stepped into the job last Thursday. That was Craig Forrest, by the way. So he got the job last Thursday, right? So I, quite honestly, am not surprised we didn't get much today, if anything. There weren't too many probing questions, but perhaps questions that we could have got something from. But he danced around them pretty well, I think. Like a veteran politician, actually, in some regards. But I don't know what we really expected, though, from someone that's been on the job for literally a few days. Dubs, were you surprised that we got so little?
I was. I think based on his early communications, his eagerness to reach out and connect, he talked about reaching out and connecting with stakeholders, but also alumni. I expected not that he was going to be divulging a whole lot, but just that there was going to be an aspect of him being more forthright about things. It seemed like he was dancing around a lot of stuff, and not like he was concealing anything, but keeping his cards close to his vest, as it were. Not from LL Bean, but from North Face.
It was a nice vest, actually, I thought.
It was fleecy.
I appreciate
perhaps water resistant, but I put $5 that it was from LL Bean, but he leaned forward at the end and it was from the North Face. So
I think there's 25% off this week. Just in case you
I thought it worked for him. I think I'm someone that is actually a fan of vests myself.
I can
appreciate that.
I can
see that. You see that. You say that in such a bullshit way, Jimmy.
You're that guy.
I can see you wearing a vest. What's wrong with wearing vests?
He seems like a nice guy, but I'm not a fan of the vest.
Jimmy's made his judgment.
Yeah,
already.
He didn't even let us know what he thought about the kit. Like, just he's not gonna like really tell us what he thinks if he doesn't like it. But we didn't even get an answer.
No,
right?
But I think there's an awful lot that he would love to share, but he just can't.
Yeah.
And he danced around a few things, which is understandable. I get it. But I think when you look at his priorities, he's got to fix the labor agreement, wants to fix the financial model. So he's got an awful lot of work to do. Still got to find a head coach. He wants to surround himself with football people. There is a hell of a lot of work to be done, though. That's for sure.
Yeah. Players dispute, CSB, dealing with the provinces, the clubs, this upside down pyramid system that we really have.
Not to mention the provincial hiring system.
Yeah.
They just hired for the Ontario under-17s. Jesus Christ.
I know.
What are the odds next week we hear him resign?
But I mean, listen, it's a huge job, isn't it? There's so many areas to focus on. And most of those areas right now involve lawyers and legalities. And you just can't comment, right? You just can't. As simple as that. That's so true. He had to address the media at some point. He had to show his face, right? Ideally, would he have done it? No. He'd rather, I'm sure, get his feet under the table a little bit longer, so to speak, to actually give some definitive answers on certain things. But yeah, it's a bit of like one of those crap parties you're kind of looking forward to, but you realize halfway through, man, this isn't going to get much better, this party, is it? May as well just go home early.
Yeah. It's true. I did think, though, he did very well with the lingo. So he's a golf guy, right? And we know with Wonger, he still refers to goalkeepers as goaltenders, right? Or goalies. And there's a couple of other things that sneak in. But he had, right from the outset, he had match, very, flowed. He said Copa, just very, very easily. Rolled off the tongue. He said football. So I was impressed with that. That's good. But in terms of things more seriously now that he could have delved into and he didn't, is to Jimmy's point, addressing the big issues. He wants to surround himself with expertise, and that includes on the footballing side. What does that mean exactly? What does that look like? They've talked about hiring a sporting director. Is that what you still intend to do? Is that part of your plan now as general secretary and CEO? Or do you have maybe something more nuanced or a couple of roles that you think footballing people could fill that will help support you in your job? Just, I feel like he could have delved into that a little bit more deeply and given us more detail, even though that wasn't a question that was asked outright. I think it was something he could have provided.
Mm-hmm. What'd you make of the TSN article dropping like an hour before the press conference? Rick Westhead has it insinuating that there's a weird kind of reality to Canadian football that the better the teams do will obviously cost Canada more, and perhaps they can't afford that. It is interesting. And again, it's just the agenda-based opposition to Canada soccer right now, and dropping this just before this happens. That wasn't an accident, was it?
I wouldn't think so.
It's not the first time, right? This has happened.
No.
But what do you mean agenda-based? That's a strategic...
Yeah.
That's strategic timing.
Put pressure on Canada soccer, maybe try and instigate some tough questioning. Maybe that's why he was so vanilla today. Because, whoever fed that information to Rick had an agenda at play. And perhaps he was very defensive because of that, man. Here it comes. I'm not going to give any ammunition to anyone today.
Yeah, you have to think, though, that a guy with his background, though, has not come into this job blind to the financial issues, right, that plague the Federation. So perhaps the article was a surprise, but I don't think the nature or the subject of the article took him by surprise.
No.
So I'd be amazed if he was put off by that.
No, of course he's not. He wouldn't be put off by that. Not at all.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm not suggesting
listen, that's the least of his worries. I mean, that comes out, it gets dropped. He's already gone through the financials. He knows exactly what he's got to do, how he's going to fundraise. He talked about that. He does have a lot of work, but he's experienced and he knows what he needs to do. So, and he said it as well. He said, look, when you hear the stories, they're not always accurate. And then when you do hear a story coming from his mouth, then you know it's going to be 100% accurate.
That was telling when he did say towards the end there, he said, no, I will be transparent. You'll hear it from me. Mm-hmm. When we're ready to talk, you'll hear it from me. Yeah. That was as a way of saying, don't read everything and believe what you see. Wait until you hear it from the horse's mouth. So listen, it's toxic right now, isn't it? This labor issue, the battle clearly is very, there's a bloody lawsuit, right, against former board members. And again, you couldn't really talk about that very much today. You understand why. So I don't know when he talks again. Hopefully there'll be some more concrete information at that point. Maybe it's good news. Maybe there's actually some hard news to talk about. We could have focused on the friendlies, Netherlands, Mexico, good stories. All right. That's positive. Are there more announcements on the way? There wasn't time for those questions, unfortunately. You believe there are. He kept using that phrase, rebuilding trust. And that's a good one because he has to, because it is a mess there. With the way the game and the people that run the game are perceived in Canada right now. They have to do that. It won't take a day or two. It's going to take weeks, months, years, perhaps, to do that as well. That was about all I kind of got from it, quite honestly, which, again, I kind of expected. Craig?
Yeah. You know what? It is expected. And the thing is more of an introductory thing. And when it comes to the legal sides of things, which is heavily involved with most of these topics that we would like to hear about, he can't say anything. So as transparent as he can be, a lot of it, he can't really divulge or dig deep into any of these questions that have been asked of him. So, yeah, we didn't really learn an awful lot from that standpoint. But I think that, there's going to come a time too. I don't believe that they can pay the players the money that they're talking about for bonuses and appearances and all that. I just, when they said that, with the percentages that the players are going to get, I just don't think that works financially. And I think the players somewhat realize that. I mean, Honestly, I think playing for your country is an honor, and it's not your employment. I think it was a little bit different for the women, Amy, to be honest, because that was really the only way to make some money. But as a professional game expands and grows as it is so quickly in the women's game, I think that's where the bread and butter is going to be. The same with the men as well. You're playing for your club. You play for your country for the love of it. Here's your bonuses. We're going to be fair with the bonuses when you make the big tournaments. We're going to be equal with all these different things. But the bottom line is we cannot pay the amount of money that you guys want for appearances. We will if we have the money. We're going to try to raise as much as we can, but we cannot afford it. And to do all the other things, to prepare our under 17 teams for tournaments, our under 20 teams. These teams aren't qualifying for tournaments anymore. They have the preparation is a disaster because there's no money to go around. So yeah, I would believe that it is a case of the better the national team did, the more expensive it became. Look at what the kids are paying now. Was it, Dubs, your 2 kids playing soccer is $1,000?
Yeah. It was $1,000 for me to sign up the twins for soccer.
Yeah.
And then out of that, like Canada Soccer gets $9, the Provincial Association gets $7, and like the greater region that we're a part of as an association gets, $15 or something like that. So that's where the resistance comes from the provinces, and then their own members. They're already paying through the nose in order to play in a sport that's meant to be accessible. So how are you expected to raise funds, right? If you're looking to if we just bump it up $1, well, it's not just $1. It's adding it on to a sport that's already pushing people out because of their socioeconomic status, right?
That's right.
And Forrest, your point about like the youth teams, I think now, correct me if I'm wrong, FIFA just announced that they're yearly tournaments now. So in a way, Canada Soccer will be forced now, their hand will be forced to support these programs properly. And that's going to siphon more money, from the pocketbooks and from the coffers. So where's the line drawn? So it at the top of the pyramid now, where on the men's side and the women's side, they're able to make a good wage playing professionally. I think that there's a fine line between, you want to do it just for the love of the game and for the pride of playing for your country. Yes, but you should be supported properly and be in conditions where you can thrive. So it's not, the women's game is still fighting against federations that don't give a fuck about their women's players, right? So I think we have to be really careful about that. But I think you do bring up a really good point that it can't be paying the men's and the women's teams and the World Cup teams at the expense of supporting your youth teams and the rest of the ecosystem in Canada. You can't do that.
Yeah, you're 100% right. And the thing is too, all these players that are playing for this national team have come through the system as well. And they know that the lack of resources that you had at that U15, that U17, or the Olympic teams. We had barely any preparation as players. And they seem to forget that sometimes. And that money does have to get filtered down, and you do have to look after these young youth, the youth teams. They have to. Otherwise,
and I'm sure the players believe that though and understand that, right? They don't want to bankrupt Canada Soccer. Their biggest problem right now clearly is around the CSB deal. They believe there should be more money in the game, therefore they should get paid more. And they're saying, why isn't that deal working in our best interests? And the CSB will come out and say, listen, it is. The money isn't out there. It hasn't been out there. And that's the problem right now, this back and forth. CSB saying, you bring us the $100 million deals, great, we'll sign them. But they're not out there right now. The money isn't in the game at the moment in this country. That's the problem.
No, it is. And even with the CSA, it's hard for them to go to the provinces and saying, well, we need to increase it. We need more money. Because then the provinces have to go to the clubs. And then they got to go to all their board members to get everything passed. And then that money can get filtered up. But it's already too expensive right now. And you can see these board members don't want to add more money into their registrations because it is expensive. I mean, look what it costs, $700 to rent a full indoor pitch for an hour, right? So you're asking these parents to pay this.
And the heads of these clubs are getting voted in by pleasing the parents, not pleasing the province or pleasing the CSA. Exactly. So they're going to fight against it, because they don't want to add any more. And we're putting more and more weight on families. And I think already there's 1 in 3 families in Canada can't afford to put their kids in registered sports. And I'm telling you that one in three, there's a fantastic group of people and players and athletes in that group that are not going to, and hungry as hell, but are never going to get a chance. That's in Canada.
Yeah, who are excluded.
Yeah.
I want to be careful though that we're not putting the sole blame on the players here. Like I think that you should be going after, you're trying to maximize and capitalize on your worth as a player in like the prime of your career, and the federation should be supporting that. But I think I kind of lost the thread of my thought there.
But okay, how do you keep costs down? Jim, you tell me. How do you keep costs down for a club then? How do you keep them down?
It's hard, Charms. It really is. I mean, I think it's, and to go on what Amy's saying there, we're not putting blame on the players. No, but it's collectively, everybody has to be on the same page. From the local clubs to the region, to the provinces, to the national program, everybody has to play a role, and everybody collectively have to work together. And it's very, very expensive, this game. And this game around the world's always been the blue collar working class sport. And now we're just pricing people out of the game.
Mm-hmm. I remember what I was going to say.
Yeah, jump in there.
Sorry. Yeah, I was just going to say that not to put the blame on the players, but there's a way to generate profit. You're saying, Sharms, that the money's not necessarily there. I don't think the money's there in Canada the way that it is south of the border in the US. We don't have the population, we don't have the sponsorships, we don't have the cash flow, I think, around sport in general. I'm not even talking about soccer, but the way that the men's team has taken off, the way that you have personalities that people know who they are, even who aren't footballing people, the way that the women have become kind of household names. There is a gap and a disconnect between how much money, and he's talking about engines. That's another word. He used broad a lot, which I really liked. And he also kept saying like engine, right? So engine for, for sponsorship, engines for this philanthropic sector that he wants to start, which is great, and putting sort of more structure around that. But their CSB and the way that's separate in terms of managing the broadcasting and the sponsorship and all that stuff. They are not drumming up enough interest and enough cash that is the equivalence of what these personalities and the on-pitch product is. There is a clear gap there, and that has to make more sense. So, we've talked about modernizing that deal. I don't know what that looks like. That's another issue that's on his plate that he has to deal with. But there's something there that's not quite adding up to me, because the players are right in that regard. I understand their reasoning for, not wanting to wear the sponsorship, because it doesn't add up at the end of the day. If you look at just what's plainly in front of them, there should be more money there for sponsorship because of all of the interest that these teams have drummed up collectively.
Yeah, and I think as much as he's going to be transparent with the public and the media and whatever, it's a case of where he has to have that transparency with the players and say, okay, here it is. We're going to lay it all out. This is some money we have. This is what we're going to try to do. This is how we're going to try to improve things. But this is where we sit at this moment. Here they are. Everything's out in the butt. Everybody's going to be able to see everything, because this is the big problem. No, everybody thinks there's like something being hid, and they're hiding things. CSB's making a whole bunch of money, and all these different things are all going around. I don't think really there's an understanding. And I think that's his job to bring all that together and to try to communicate with everybody that there's going to have to be some give and take here.
Yeah. And that's it with not-for-profit organizations as well. Everything has to be done above board. And they do get audited every single year. So with their finances, and they share the finances as well at their AGMs. Mm-hmm. So this is where I think Kevin has to sit down with the players and everybody involved and go through the numbers and show them. Look,
the problem is, Jimmy, I think that even if he gets the players on board, they've got a lawyer that's sets fire to everything. This guy is in no hurry to get anything done.
Why would he be? Right?
Exactly.
Why would he be? Yeah, I'm not sure it's in his best interest to get this thing solved quickly. Of course it isn't. That's a real problem.
But from a player's perspective, like I lived through trying to get money from the CSA, money that we were owed, not tons, like not millions of dollars, not even thousands of dollars, just money that we were owed in terms of compensation for time away from jobs that we had to have, right? Like as a player, you don't want that hanging over you. And I know we've had this discussion before that outside the leadership group or the captains or whoever's dealing with the lawyer, and as your team representative who's talking to the CSA, you probably don't know too much about it. But for the players who do have to deal with it, of course you want to get that over the line. Yeah. You don't want that hanging over your head. And does it affect performance? No, of course it doesn't. But it's just another thing that you have to deal with outside of the pitch, and it can sort of make your life a lot easier if that's solved.
Yeah, I mean, like Craig mentioned there, it's kind of simple, isn't it? Meeting together and saying, here are the hard numbers. This is a reality we're playing with right now. We are not making hundreds of millions of dollars here, right? Maybe we can build towards that one day, but right now we're not. It's that simple. Like I said, the players don't want to bankrupt Canadian soccer, right? They don't, right? No. And that's pretty simple, pretty obvious, I would hope. But I mean, listen, this is not a problem that's just unique to Canada, right? The biggest federations in the world have these same issues on a bigger scale, perhaps, right? From pricing kids out from playing football in the developed world, in many countries, I know England being a prime example, is a big problem. You're losing, a massive percentage of the population because the kids can't afford to play football. It's brutal. There's labor issues around the world, just south of the border. Recently, they only just signed it. After 6 years? 6 years fighting and screaming at each other. You'd hope they would learn from that, right? But I believe they picked the same lawyer up, didn't they? I think the lawyer the men are using is the same guy that did that deal, isn't it?
And the way that's structured, they can't afford it. The Americans can't afford it. Look, I mean, I don't know what the appearances for the players, both female and male. It's pretty high. I mean, what is it, 20 grand or something a player or something?
For the U.S. first?
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's pretty high. Like it's substantial. They can't really afford it. When you look at the Gold Cup and the attendance really for that at times, that's not paying the bills. CONCACAF invested an awful lot into that. I won't call it losses.
Yeah, but didn't do a whole lot in terms of marketing. Yeah, but yes, those stadiums weren't filled, but how many people knew about it?
Yeah, but I mean, even if everybody in Canada knows about it, that's never changed. Canada, we've never drawn flies except for family and friends away from home. We bring nothing to we bring nothing to the table. Like, we really do.
Something though the USSF has done well though is that finally Cindy Parlow-Cone as the president is getting paid. So Jimmy, going back to your question about being audited and being a not-for-profit, is there a way, because you talked about modernizing this CSB deal between the federation, is the way that we can modernize the federation so that these jobs are taken seriously and you can pay these people? Is that something as part of a not-for-profit?
Yeah, they can pay, but
why don't we do that?
Well, you'd have to look at their constitution as well.
And from where? Where's that money coming from now? You're right. You're bang on. It should be a professional. That's a full-time job being the president. It's a full-time job.
It is.
But where's that money coming from? When they're bleeding, what, according to the article, now take it with a grain of salt, but what, $3-4 million a year?
Yeah.
To put a men's game, then the men's game on recently, it's like $1.5 million with bonuses, with et cetera, et cetera. And then it's not as if the TV company's helping out broadcasting these things, right? That's a big thing. It's a big problem. We've been through that on this show numerous times.
Mm-hmm.
The TSNs, the sponsors don't give a shit about doing it.
You think you can't just keep doing the same thing, right? So you think a guy like this comes in, maybe that's what he does. Mm-hmm. He changes the structure and then the way that the organization is run. So then you're better set up in order to be profitable, hopefully.
Do you think, tell me this, does Labour Peace dictate how much money can be raised as well? I mean, does an outside company, corporate Canada, look at the state of the domestic game in this country and the infighting between the players and Canada Soccer, CSB, and they say, we don't want anything to do with that until they get that. Get your house sorted out, first of all, and then we'll maybe start committing some funds. Is that possible, do you think? It would scare me off.
Yeah, well, it's a good excuse, isn't it? But they never got involved really that heavily before anyway.
Sure, that's a good point. Yeah.
Well, there's also, like, I've gone back to this before, we don't have an event like the World Youth Hockey Championship. That's an event that TSN basically created, and they've made it an event that it's a go-to during the holidays at Christmas time every single year, and the viewership is massive. The association, Hockey Association, make millions off it. But a lot of people, if you talk to them about Hockey Canada, they think, you know what, they're as disorganized as the CSA. They just have more money, right? So the problem is we don't have any money, and it's been very, very difficult over the years to be able to do that. But having events, I don't know how you do that, because most of it, if you're playing a Gold Cup game here, that's a CONCACAF event. When FIFA, the World Cup's coming in here, that's a FIFA event.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think the CSA raising money off even the Nations League? That's another CONCACAF event. Do you think the Canada Suckers bought themselves some time here, at least from the public narrative here? Let's see what Kevin Blue can do. Let's give him a little while. Yeah. Oh God, he absolutely deserves time. But
Of course he does.
holy shit, he's got a lot on his plate. Like I wouldn't want that job. I wouldn't want to touch it. Wouldn't want to touch it. There's parts of it I would like to get involved with, but when you look at all the different things he's got to deal with.
Yeah. And for as little as we learned today, sorry for us, didn't mean to cut you off.
Not at all.
For as little as we learned today, I don't think he's going to hide. I think like his mandate, he came in last Thursday and he put out that tweet, I believe was that morning. And part of it was that he's going to be forthright and he's going to be consistent in his communications. And I think that we can hold him to that. And I think he's going to deliver on that. So we might not always like what he's going to say, but I think that he's going to be a face that we see regularly, for better or worse, right? So I think that's good. That's something I think that the Canadian public and the Canadian footballing public and fan deserves.
Well, we don't see the president, do we, ever?
Nope.
Ever. And those elections come up in May. Be really interesting. So you need a figurehead. You need someone, absolutely. You know, people hammered Nick Buntis, you know, for various reasons. But one thing about Nick Buntis, he was always available. He was always visible, right? Since he left, there was no one at all. And that looks poorly, I think, in an organization. Who do you trust? No wonder there's no trust right now. There's been no one to blame because there's been no one visible or available for the longest time.
One thing about Kevin and his involvement with Golf Canada and involvement with soccer, it's he's in a vicious corner now. Golf Canada must be pretty soft. I don't think anybody's coming for him hard as they would do in this footballing world.
I don't know. What's a golf? You tell me. Is a golf culture in Canada? It's soft and it's just cuddled a little bit, is it?
It's in decent shape. Going by all the pros that are playing right now, they're doing really, really well. So
yeah, from
that standpoint,
our football pros are doing really well. Doesn't help.
Well, that's right. Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of like a golfing equivalent of like getting cleats up. Like, is there one? Like
studs up? Oh, I wonder. Yeah. Well, it could be cleats up still, couldn't it? Could be.
It's true.
Yeah.
Four iron, saw the head.
Yeah. Get run over by a golf cart.
Yeah.
There's been I've seen a few injuries myself in the old golf carts before.
I've seen people fall out of golf carts because they're too drunk.
Yeah.
But Jimmy, you were talking about constitutions before, and I thought he looked like he had a good constitution. He had good skin tone. He looked healthy. Yes. Yeah. Good constitution.
That won't last long. Not in this job. We'll see him in the 6 months. He'll look like a bag of shit.
He'll be completely gray.
Oh, Kev, what happened?
It'll be like Barack Obama, remember?
Yeah, that's right.
It'll look like a Premier League manager.
Yeah.
Worn out.
Suddenly Neil Warnock shows up for the Canada Soccer next press conference.
Yeah, can you imagine?
Kevin,
new manager. Actually, he would be great for 2026. We should push for that. Neil Warnock.
You know he's available, right? He left, was it Motherwell? After pissing everyone off.
That's what love him.
A legend. If he's alive, that is.
If he's alive, yeah. I'm assuming he's alive.
Sharms, one last thing, you talked about reluctance of sponsors to get on board because of the labor strife and all the issues. But there's 2026 on the horizon, right? So I think you look at that, and I think that is heavy in the pro column, that you think, despite all of this bullshit, I think that I'm in because the visibility and the return that I'm going to get as a sponsor, I think outweighs that. So
do they stick around though after Dubs? That's the thing. Are they just bandwagon jumpers? They'll jump on in January of 26. and then they'll leave in January 27.
Oh, that's going to happen. There's going to be a big part of this. By 2028, we'll be like, yeah.
Remember that?
A couple years ago, remember that? Yeah. Wasn't much of a legacy piece, but there we go. Small steps.
I'm thinking that we put a request in to get Kevin on the podcast soon, and they said yeah for sure. Maybe we wait a little while until he's got some things to say and he can speak. Because as great and as affable as we all are, and as such great interviewers, I don't think we're going to crack that nut so easily.
I thought your question, though, was speaking about people who ask good questions about public perception was a good one. And I don't think you got a whole lot back.
No.
That was one that he could have dug into a little bit.
Your second question was good. Your first one's a little bit rubbish. He pied it off. He was like, yeah, whatever.
What was the first one?
Can't remember what it was.
It was good. Forrest already referenced it. It was the financial demands of the players.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah,
I think both were pretty good, Jimmy.
He blew it off. He blew the first one off.
Well, yeah, that's not my fault though. It's not the bad question necessarily.
No, that was somebody else blowing off, but that was later on.
You should have followed up with that.
Yes, you're right.
Now, can you please answer the question?
Yeah, that's exactly. Well, that's very nice, Kevin. Now, can you answer the fucking question? I don't know. Listen, we'll see. He seemed like he's likable, but that means I don't care about that. Let's see if he can do the job.
I want to go golfing with him.
Yes.
Put it out there. Yeah, that's you get the telltale, isn't it?
Yeah. When he wipes the floor with me. I suspect he's a very good golfer.
Why?
Maybe he's not.
Maybe for Golf Canada? Is he a great tennis player as well? Because you have Tennis Canada.
Was he with Tennis Canada as well?
I believe so. Once upon a time,
yeah.
Doesn't mean that you're great at the sport.
I take him for
the organization. I do a freaking soccer podcast. I built 20 years talking about I can't kick a ball straight. Doesn't mean anything.
We know.
That is true.
Penalties all the time.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's very true.
But looking at you don't look like an athlete, and he does.
You've only seen him from the head up. That's all you've seen him.
Yeah, no, we saw.
He weighs 375, right? You know that.
Yeah.
He's bottom heavy.
Yeah, he's like a pear.
Like a big pear.
I really hope he's not. I feel really bad now.
Short little legs.
Melting ice cream cone.
No, I think he looks pretty fit. Takes care of himself. But
he's got shoulder. I bet he can golf. I'm just saying. I have no idea, but I bet he's decent.
You'd think he'd be decent.
The heavy drinking will start soon, though, right? In this gig. So
yeah.
I
think so.
All right. Well, listen, that's our little reaction vodcast.
Don't do it.
We also did one this morning on the podcast, which turned into a vodcast, looking at the hits watch earlier today. So check that out also on YouTube. Please like this, subscribe to us. We're steaming towards 1,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for saying steaming.
So much money.
Your lighting's pretty good, Sharms. You actually look younger there.
Do I really?
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, you had a shave too, didn't you?
Yeah, he just shaved.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, I did a little trim today. I remember you mocked me this morning about that already, and Dubs hates my face.
Yeah.
No, I love your face, but I prefer your face with scruff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it'll be back there by probably Wednesday or Friday. Yeah. Friday latest, you'll see some scruff.
I'm going to skip Wednesday spot.
We got lots of plugs this week. MLS Box to Box. We have Frank Gallup joining us on Thursday. We're not sure what time yet. And we have, of course, our 3 Qs with Montreal, Toronto FC, and Vancouver. They'll be started to be taped tomorrow. So, follow Footy Prime, the podcast, on all your social channels. And we'll talk more about this next time out. Thank you very much. Laters.
Thanks, Dave Starkey.
Oh, stalkers. I knew he'd be here. Nice. Are we still live?
Is he the only person who is here?
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, exactly. We want to thank our audience.
Yeah. I think audience is plural or singular, no matter how you use it.
Yeah. Well, we did have Biggie, and Biggie is big time
Yay!
down there.
I must admit, I'm kind of thankful. Is he 10 million? Jesus.
Yeah.
I'm kind of thankful Wonga didn't show up because, well, obvious reasons.
10 million views for Biggie. Look, he is just a legend. I knew it. JC, you knew I knew it.
Of course I did.
Me and JC got a thing.
Oh yeah, we do. Oh yeah, we do. Biggie has a question for you, Craig. Hey, Craig, since you're my mullet, what is it, Biggie? Mullet mentor? What are your tips that you have to get the freshest, cleanest, most flowing mullet?
Well, you got to put a little perm in there. You perm it up a little bit. Get a little blow dryer action going. Look at it.
Well, thank you, Craig. I appreciate you giving me the information.
That's all right. I know mullets.
Can we stop being live now?
Yeah,
are we live? I thought we were finished
Are we done?
I think we're still on.